All right, so I've got the rips ripped basically. So I'll just show you what I got. So after doing some thinking and some other things, as I told you, I ended up doing a 10-inch rip. Basically what that gave me was it allows me to use up the majority of my material as well as still get basically what I had wanted, which was being able to put my rods down the catwalk. So I took all my 16-foot spider rigging rods, I laid them out. I found that, you know, 10 inches is very suitable for me to lay those along the gunnel. It'll keep them out of the way, as well as it won't give me so big of a gunnel, or I say gunnel, but catwalk, that a person will want to step on that and potentially break the rods, which is what I don't want. So, you know, it's kind of the best of both worlds. So what I ended up with was, as I've been talking about it, I had two pieces of 20-inch rips that were left over from making the sides of the boat. Now these were 25-foot long rips. Now these 25-foot lengths of material are crazy expensive. They're about $1,250 a sheet is what it cost for basically the two sides and the two pieces of the bottom. About $1,250 per sheet times 4. So you can imagine I want to use up all the material that I can, you know, to basically justify the cost of all this. So by using the 20-foot rips and cutting them in half, I'm able to take one of the 20-inch rips and I can use it for both catwalks. And then with the leftover 20-inch rip, because of the length I have left, I'm going to have approximately 18 inches that I need to fill here, and I can use that whole piece up on the sides of the catwalk, because all this is going to get, you can see here I've just kind of roughly got it mocked up. That's going to get a full side with doors, and that's going to be the storage on both sides of this boat. Now the only problem with doing that is because this boat is actually, it's the way it's shaped, I'm narrower here on the end. It gradually gets wider here in the middle, and then it starts to taper to the front. Fit up is going to be an issue if I want to maintain that 10-inch wide catwalk. You know, as far as I need to maintain this straight line here, but in order to keep my 10 inches back here and 10 inches up there, I would actually needed to cut a larger piece of material so that way I could contour it to the wider middle of the boat. So that's the only thing I lost out on basically by doing this. If I would have had the material to cut basically a 12-inch wide rip, I could have cut it down and had, I could have basically scribed that radius that the boat makes and had good fit up. Now, why am I telling you all this? Basically because I'm trying to use up all the material, especially the expensive material, and I'm trying to use up, you know, all the material that I had purchased for this boat. So here's my solution to this. This whole inside of this boat is going to get lined with either a Line-X or a Rhino lining or a rubberized coating. So I'm not too worried about you know, a little bit of edges, and you can see I just rough ground all these welds. They're all going to get covered up. So what you end up with basically whenever you try to basically do what I did here is you can see the belly that's created, and I've ended up with, there's about 7/8 to an inch gap there in between the side of the boat and that catwalk. And I'm tight back here and I'm tight back there, and I want to maintain my 10 inches. But because the boat flares out, I end up with that gap. So instead of burning up and having a bunch of waste of these really expensive rips, this piece of angle right here, this is 1¼ inch by 1/16 inch angle. This stuff costs $25 for a 20-foot stick. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to get my measurement 6 inches down. I'm going to weld this piece of angle to the side of the boat. My catwalk is going to come up to it, and then I'll weld here and I'll weld there. And you know, this is just 1/16 inch material. So I won't have to weld this 100% all the way. I'll stitch weld it in real tight though, and then basically once they come back through and once I get the Line-X coating or the Rhino lining coating on it, you won't be able to see much of that seam, and it'll basically look like that's one piece. And instead of having a butt weld from this to the side of the boat, I'll have this as a filler, and then if I want to, I can even come in from underneath and weld too. So it'll still be watertight, it'll still be welded basically 100%. I may even weld that 100%. It doesn't take long to weld that 16th inch material, even 30 feet of it. So anyway, that's kind of my workaround. Like I said, I'm trying to use up all the material I have. I spent a lot of time figuring out what material I needed on this boat. I don't have a shop that I can just run down to and get material. I've made this entire boat purchase in 2 orders, and from the time this was videoing, I ordered this stuff over 6 months ago. So you know, I really a lot of thinking ahead and trying to use up all the material I have. But anyway, that's going to be the workaround. That's going to be the catwalk of the boat. Now some may say, oh, you should have went wider, and some may say, you know, should have not even used it if you're going that narrow. But you know, I'll still have plenty of storage in that boat, and that'll give me a very wide platform here to have seats and to deal with fish and just walk around. I got a dance floor. I don't like real wide confining catwalks and gunnels on a boat. I just never have. I like to be right here. You can imagine if you had a 20-inch wide gunnel, or even 15. This boat's got 28-inch sides. I'd have a hell of a time reaching down to the side of the boat to get a fish or do whatever I need to do. So this is kind of a happy medium, like I said. Justification for what you guys are going to see me do in the time lapse. So I'll get you set up. We're going to get our lines all snapped out, and then once that's done, then we're going to build a framework underneath here and get the other sheets in and continue on. So I'm about to weld in the vertical part of the catwalk here to the upper part. And before I throw you up on the time lapse, I'll just kind of explain and kind of show you. So you can see the top piece. That's why I tacked it in first. This bottom piece, you can see I've got my my 6-foot door there. It's cut out. I've got all the cutouts for my latches in. I got the hinges in place. So what I want to do now is, because I went through and I made certain that I was 10 inches all the way down the length of this, rather than having to weld this to the floor first, now I can go through here and I can tack all the way down through here. You can see kind of like what I did right there. I can tack the upper part to the lower part, and because this is straight, then that will make the vertical part straight. Once that's done, then all I have to do is bring it down to level, you know, in case there's any variation in my floor or anything. Which this one here, there wasn't much. I think there was just about an 1/8 inch throughout the whole run, so that wasn't bad. But anyway, that's what I got going. That's the way I'm doing this, because like I said, guys, this is 3/16 material. This stuff it's rigid as hell on its own, so there's no reason to be building a frame and everything, you know, whenever you can use the structural integrity of the sheets. But as you can see, you know, that sheet there, it's all up and down. This sheet here just because it's 11 foot long, it's got a big bow to it. So everything, there's one thing you're going to learn, you know, while doing with these big flat sheets of material is they're never going to be perfect. You're going to have to, especially whenever you're dealing with any sort of run or length of them, you just got to find the way to work around all the twists and warps and just kind of take everything out, especially with aluminum, because once you start throwing heat to this stuff, especially being kind of suspended like it is, this stuff's just going to go crazy. So what I'm doing here is I've got myself a 16th or 3/16 gauge block, and I'm just going to go down through here and I'm going to gauge that inside 3/16. That gives me a good place to weld to, and then if I want, I can come back and kind of grind it off and make a nice rolled edge, or you know, that way water doesn't get down in here. You know, you'd rather have I would rather have this underneath. So everything looks real good. You can see I've got, yeah, there's right there, you can get a fingernail underneath the floor. So that's, as it's sitting right now, that's my variation, but no big deal. Like I said, I'll go down through here and I'll get this tacked on with my gauge, and it'll heave and hoe and wave, and then that's fine. And after I get that done, then I'll come back through and I'll start at one end. I'll take a level and I'll level off this catwalk, make sure it's level, and then I'll use a square and I'll square off. There's really no reason to plumb it per se, because the boat's not sitting level on, you know, the boat's not sitting level, it's a little off, and it's just easier to just square off of what I know this floor is I built. So anyway, you're gonna see me do all that in the time lapse. That's what I'm doing. Then I'm, like I said, I'm welding the bottom 100%, and then I can come back through, I can weld all this. You can see I've got a little bit of flex in here, and that's kind of what I wanted. You know, there's no reason to weld it all till you get as much strength to it as you can. So if that makes any sense for you. But anyway, I'm gonna turn that into that here directly. I'll set you up on the time lapse, and we'll get going. All right, so there's pretty much what the completed catwalk looks like on that side. I ground that down along that angle, top and bottom. There's maybe it's over the 16th, but it's about an eighth inch lip there that I left. Didn't grind down into the angle, and what's going to happen is whenever this gets lined, that's all going to get covered, and you'll actually never be able to tell that I pieced it in. So pretty happy with how that turned out. Boat's super solid. You can see I've got that one done as well as this one. Got everything all ground down on this side as well. So the only thing I'm missing is just to finish attaching my hinges, and then putting the latches on the on all the doors here. I've got two doors, or two latches on this one rather, since it's a 6-foot door, and then one on each of these 3-footers here. So very happy with how they turned out. It gave me a ton of room here in the bottom. I've got a little over I've got about 6 foot there in the front, and about 6.5 foot here in the back of usable deck space, basically. So didn't really sacrifice any deck space, by having just the 10-inch wide catwalks. I'll still be able to get 2 seats side by side if I want to, rather than having to stagger them. So that's nice. And actually I'll have the captain's chair here, if you want to call that, but my driving chair there. And then for whenever we fish out of the boat, if I want to put 2 seats here and here and then face out the back of the boat, I'll still have plenty of room to do that. So anyway,